Hey guys, welcome to a Google Play save video. So this is saved directly on my cloud. That's my game over here. It's the best game you've ever seen. If we go ahead and we try to save, it says, oh well, we're not authenticated. That's totally fine. You have to be authenticated first. So let's go ahead, click on login. You're going to see that right now we are connected and we have loaded our save successfully. Let's go ahead and do that again just so you understand the flow. If you do log out, you're gonna have to re-enter your information. So let me go ahead and use this one. And we're back. So we have a save game. That's my 5th save right now, and it's saved at the very early morning stage. You can go ahead and save to the cloud. It's gonna take a little bit of time because of course it has to connect. It has to connect yourself to the cloud and override the file that it had on there, give you a proper feedback. So this is what we're gonna be having a look at today. It is not the easiest thing that you've seen thus far, probably on the channel. It's actually one of the complicated topics. You're going to need a lot of patience, and you're also going to have the Google Play services enabled. So without further ado, let's get right into it. Okay, so before we get started, I'd like to remind everybody that you will need to have Play services enabled for your game. You will need to go through that whole setup. We won't do it again, we did it in the last video. So if you haven't seen that, click on the eye at the top of your screen right now and go watch that. Make sure you activate your game to enable Google Play services. So to give you a quick look over here, mine is, because if I go under Window, Google Play Games, my setup, Android setup, I have information here and I've also tested it out on my device. So you can't test this out on your actual computer. You'll need it on your device. You'll need a build installed on your device. Okay, so cloud saving is quite a advanced topic. It's not something that's so easy. It requires a lot of patience. You're gonna have to do a lot of testing, but once you get it down, it's gonna be something really cool for your game. So let me show you the scene we have right now for testing purpose. I have 4 buttons, one for logging in the Google Play services, one for logging out, saving, and then also loading. Everything is hooked in into a single script called Cloud Save Test. As far as the button goes, because for the rest of the services, such as Play Service, we do have a different script for that, and also another one for Save State and also Save Manager. So let me show you what kind of system we're going to be creating for ourselves. So this is a test. This is something that would be replaced completely by your game with your own mechanic. Right here, I just have a debug text. So I like to print stuff out on my screen so I can see it in the game. Really, it's just for the purpose of getting some feedback while I test this out. Now, what I do is in a start script, I subscribe to my Save Manager, which listens for cloud event. So my Save Manager is going to listen for once we're done saving, and we're going to add a function called after save. So once we're done saving, let's run this. It's going to have this parameter, which is a save game request status. This one lets you know whether or not it worked, basically. So if it was a success, let's go ahead and do something. And if it wasn't, just tell me why. Give me the reason why it didn't work. And there's quite a few over here you can see. So what are those reasons? The reason can be authentication error, bad input, internal error that we don't really know what it is, or a timeout. So you get to have that information as well in your callback. Same thing for afterload, and same thing for on-play error. This is something else that I'll show you a little bit later on if something else goes wrong within the Google Play services. Once you're done saving, it's going to replace automatically the save state. Okay, and I also have my buttons down here. Those are the 4 functions hooked to my button. First one is save. We simply call save to cloud. Give a callback in case something goes wrong. Load, same thing, so you load from cloud, and you also give another callback for on-player. You can also not care about that. It's a default parameter, so this would also work, but I like to get some feedback in case something goes wrong, so I know, what went wrong. But it's optional in our system we've made. Then login is a simple sign-in. I also send in 2 callback, one if it worked and one if it didn't work. And logout is a simple sign out. Now everything is hidden inside of the Play service, which is our class that controls pretty much everything. So in here, that's quite a big script. So in here, we got quite a big script, and I'll give you exactly what you need to make this run. And you can also download it directly on the website if you have enough experience. Now experience is gained through leaving comments in the description down below. It's done by subscribing to the channel, by pledging on Patreon, all that kind of stuff. and then after that you have to log in on the website. But let's see over here. This is everything you'll need in terms of field. You're gonna need to first enable your save game. That's something I do here on my own. You don't really have to put this boolean, but I give myself the option to enable or not enable it. Then you'll need a cloud save name. So what happens when you save to cloud is that it goes inside the user's, actually it goes inside your Google Drive account linked to your Google Play console account, and it saves under that very specific name. So if you don't have a name, that's gonna kinda be bad. And if you have, say, 2 games, one of them use a cloud save name called save state and the other one tries to use that one as well, it's going to override and corrupt data. So you'll need to have a specific name for your game. In this case, you know, you could say, that's the name of my game, right? But I put that as a serializable field and I can change it after that. I also output an error in case you leave it blank, so don't be worried about that. Now, next up is data source. So where you're gonna get your data from. Do you have to be online? Do you have to always be online to play this or to get your information? Or can you afford to have that fetched directly on your device, so locally? It's really up to you. If you need something extremely secure, you're going to leave that on network only. And you'll see that if I just pull it out over here. So here, data source, you have read cache or network, or you can read network only. Depending on whatever you need, how much security you need, you can decide to leave that on network only. And then just after that, we have the conflict strategy, which means, okay, so in case there's something wrong, in case you're playing on 2 different devices, which save game do we use? Do we use the one with the longest playtime, or the original one, the unmerged, manual, last known good? You have all this option directly here. I like to use longest playtime because I think it's if you play on 2 different devices, that's such a problem. You don't know which one to use. And when I say that is if you play offline on both devices and then you try to connect. So it's really up to you at that point. You saw the option, just pick what is the wisest for your game. If you have in-app purchase, just pick wisely. Now, going inside of the awake, this is something that's running on the singleton. We usually do like the instance thing. I decided not to do it this time and use manual singleton. But yeah, this is like the private static instance we usually have on top of our services. So we can call the play service from anywhere. Now I want this to persist through scene, that's totally fine. And then I'll need to actually start the play game client. The play game client is something that you'll need no matter what you do with the play services. So if you need leaderboard achievement, if you need all of that, you'll have to create this and activate the platform. That's the most important line. Now, if you're gonna have save games, if you're gonna have cloud, you're gonna need to also pass in this parameter over here. We'll call this function called enable save game in your builder. And of course, you build it. So this is something required. Not only that is required, but if you go over on Google Play, there is a little bit more information that you'll need. So under your service, you're going to need to have a publish service. Of course, your publish needs to be, your service needs to be published. And then when you go under the game details, you'll have to have save game enabled. That is very important. Now the cool thing is, if you haven't enabled it, it's not a problem. If your app is published, your service is published, and you haven't enabled it, that's not a problem. You can always enable it after. The only thing you can't do is turn it off. So right now I can't turn it off because once it's published, it's out there. It's just, you deal with it now. So, okay, if you have all of these, you can activate the platform and you should be good to go for save games. You should be production ready, you could say. Now for authentication, this is really just a standard play service authentication. Let me show you mine. Oh, here it is. So if I just call sign in on its own, I just decide, hey, you don't actually need a callback, which is kind of stupid because here my parameters are null. So I don't actually need this now that I have a look at it. Yeah, but here's what I do. So I try to authenticate with a try catch, and if it doesn't work, well, I go ahead and I call my error callback, which is this one, if it exists. If it doesn't exist, it's just not going to do anything. So this is why there is a question mark over there. It just checks if it's not null first. If I sign out, it's a simple instance sign out. You don't need anything else than that, actually. You don't even need to confirm if it worked or not because it's removing the it's removing the token from your device locally. So no matter what you do after that, you won't be able to do anything that is account related to you. So I won't show you achievements nor leaderboard right now. We don't need that. The only big thing that we need is this save game down here. So let me try and explain to you what goes on, because there is quite a lot of action and callback going on with this open cloud save. By default, like the code that you could see directly on the Google Play plugin is that they do a lot of callbacks. So first you have to open your save game no matter what you do. So if you're gonna save or if you're going to load, you have to open it up. You have to request it, get it back, and then start reading it after that. That's the first step. Once you're at that point, you get to choose whether or not you want to write to it or load from it or read from it. And then of course there's another callback that waits until that is complete, and then you finally get a success or a failure callback. Now what I do over here is that I ask for two things. I ask for a callback with this very specific signature and also error callback, and this one is optional. It's a default parameter. So in case something went wrong, sometime I want to know why. But also sometime I don't care. Now, if you don't care about the error, you don't have to put all of this in, but I do care about the error. I want to know what went wrong. So what I did is I've created myself something else. I've created myself an enumeration at the top of my script over here that let me know exactly why it didn't work. So was it a timeout? Was it that you were not authenticated? Was it that the save game was not enabled, or the cloud name was not set? So this over here. So this is something custom, but as I said, you probably don't need it if you don't care so much. You just want to get things rolling. But this is what I've done over here. And the checks are quite simple. First, you check whether or not you are authenticated. You check if in your configuration, if you enabled save games. So what we saw over here in the awake, if that was done, and also if it's properly toggled on the website. And then after that, you check whether or not you have an empty string for the cloud save name. And if there's no error, then you keep on going. But if there's one, then you're gonna go ahead and invoke your error callback, of course, if you have one. And now the only important part of this actual function is over here. First, I start by getting the social active platform, and we cast it as a play games platform. If you guys remember yesterday, I've said, or yesterday, 2 days ago, I've said that the social platform is being overwritten by play games. It's not completely true, but Playgame is technically inheriting from it, hence why we can do such thing, and it's still valid, it's still a good object. But this platform has a save game, and then within the save game you have a couple of functions. Here's the one I've used: open with automatic conflict resolution. If you want to go a little bit deeper in manual, I don't exactly know how to do that, and I'm not sure if I ever will, because I've been quite successful with the automatic conflict resolution on its own, which means using the conflict strategy, we are going to just override saves depending on which one is the longest save. But if you have something very specific that has very high in-app purchase, like base cost, say $50 for a certain item, and you have the same user that buy it on 2 different devices while he's offline, maybe you want to do something about that. I'm not sure. I just don't have the exact use case in my head, but if it's for you, it's for you. Now, going inside of the parameter, first you ask for a name. So what is going to be the name of the save file? That's totally fine. Now the data source, that's what we said earlier. So are we getting this from cache or network only? Well, the first one is cache or network, or the other one is network only. Which conflict strategy are we going to use in case there is a conflict? And then finally, the callback. Now, the callback is what I've sent in as a parameter. So this is where you're going to keep the action rolling. Right now, we're within play services, but we have to branch out at one point. Once this is done, the file is open, we're going to go in a other script and deal with that stuff. So that other script, bear with me, is the save manager. So there's quite a lot of scripts here today, guys. So bear with me, because it's not as big as a script as you think it is. It's because I have local saving and I also have Google Cloud saving. Depending on which one I want to use at that time, but we're only going to be showing you exactly what you need for cloud saving. Let me highlight exactly what you need. Here, under logic, you're going to need to have a class that is serializable that you're going to be using as a state. You're going to need a binary formatter, and you're also going to need those two callback. Now let me show you the save state real quick. It's a very simple one. It's I'm only saving last time I've saved, and also how many times I've saved. This is the only information I have currently going on for me for testing purpose. Now down there you could have the player name, you could have his current progression within the game. As long as the type you're using are serializable, you'll be fine. So don't try to save a vector3 in there because that's not serializable by default. You'll have to override that, create yourself an extension if you want to. Okay, now having that said, we are going to move in the start. Well, for the start, we're going to need two things. First, initialize these two fields. We create a new state, no matter if you think about loading your game right when the game starts, or if you want to do it after. I always create myself a new empty state and just treat the person as a fresh player for the first few frames as he enters the game. We also need to initialize, of course, the binary formatter, so we don't have to do that every time we call it. And then after that, what I do is that I expose the state, so everybody can access the state from outside if they do a save state.instance.state, so I can read from my save file, and I can also overwrite it, which is totally fine. What I'll need next is these two little bad boy here. What they do is that they're the bridge in between the save state and also the binary formatter. Every time that you're trying to save to Google Play, you're going to need to send in a byte array, and you're going to receive a byte array. So you're always going to receive this exact type, which means, well, if you want to save to it, you'll have to take this definition of save state, crush it within, or crush it into a byte array, and then send that byte array over. Same thing if you're getting something, if you're loading your save state from Google Play, well, you're getting a byte array, you're not getting a save state. So you're going to have to deserialize it, and this is exactly what those two functions do. They're quite simple. They use the binary formatter to crush it down, and they use the binary formatter to uncrush it down. Yeah, you could say that. Yeah, so that's all we need to do here. These two functions are pointless to us right now. What we are interested in are here. Now you're going to be surprised that there are so many functions just for saving, and also so many functions from loading, but it's because there are so many callbacks. So yes, of course, we've opened the save file, but then after that, did we try to save? Did we try to load? And then when we do, did it work? So there's quite a couple of callback in there, and the one that you'll want to be using, well, the only one that I exposed through public field are save to cloud and also load from cloud. They're very similar. They take in a default parameter, so you don't have to send that in case you don't want to have error callback. If you don't want to treat the error, that's totally fine. They do take that, but if you open it, all it does really is just call the one we had in play services. So very simple stuff. And it's the exact same thing for load from cloud. So it's the exact same call. However, depending on whether or not we called save or load, we're going to send in a different callback. So this is the one that's 100% sure to happen. This is the one that's a default callback. Here is what happened. So we did open the cloud save, but we never decided whether or not we tried to save or load within that function. Instead, we'll leave that to the callback. And this is exactly what I'm doing in here. Now you'll get a status saying, hey, okay, so we managed to find your save file. We managed to, the Savegame request was successful, or it wasn't. There's quite a couple of different reasons why it didn't work. Timeout error, internal error, authentication, all the stuff that we saw earlier. So if it did work and you are in the save callback, then you can go ahead and start the process of saving. And that's exactly what I'm doing right here. So first, we get the blob. So the blob is a byte array. If that confuses you, let me just put that right here. So that's our data. That's what we're trying to send over to the cloud. And then we have to create ourselves a Savegame metadata update, which is just very similar to when you start a platform initially. So you'll need a builder. Then you'll have to decide, okay, so what do we exactly save within that? We're always going to be saving the blob. So we're always going to be saving the data. But on top of that, you could also have updated description, updated playtime, or updated with PNG cover image. So that sounds quite weird, but you could have an image in there that could save your game. Just like some of the old game did back in the days. I remember playing Eternal Darkness back in the days when it came out, and back when it was cool. Those were your save game, and if you have a look over here, they had like a PNG of which chapter you were in and also which runes you had at that point. So you could always give it like that kind of touch with this information. You can save that directly on the cloud too. So I thought that was cool. I don't know when I'm going to be using it, but when I do, it's going to be for the best game ever. Okay, once we have that builder, we go ahead, grab our platform just like we've done earlier, save game, and we commit the update. What do we send? Well, we send the meta. What is the meta right now? The meta is what we receive over here. That is something that we don't really have much control over. It's something that we've got in the first callback. So it's something that came with the open cloud save function. It has a little bit of information in it if you want to have a look at it. So we've reached out for our file, we got our file, and we got information on it as well. It's not technically reading the data from it just yet, but it's enough to at least identify whose data it is. Next up, we have the update, which is a updated metadata, basically. Your blob is over here, and then what is going to happen once you're done? If it works, of course, because you might lose connection during that frame and you might have a problem, who knows. So you have to have a callback. Now, let me show you exactly the callback, what it is right now. It's a simple onsave.invoke with a status. Now, you see that over here as well, in case it wasn't successful. So over here we have the successful case, but in case it wasn't successful, I'm still calling onsave, but I'm sending in the status, which at that point is not going to be success. So this is basically, hey, we're going to call onsave because people might have registered to it. They might want to know what's going on after we're saving, but you know, it might be a error actually. So that's why we filter it out over here in our after save. This is why we check, hey, our status was successful, then go ahead and do something about it. Else, just let me know why it didn't work. Now, back in our save manager real quick. This was for saving. Totally cool. Now, if it's not for saving though, what do we do exactly? If it's for loading, well, all we have to do is called read binary data. That's about it. And then we send our load callback, which is somewhere over here. Now, I'm kind of stupid. I don't know why I did that. I shouldn't have done that. I'm going to put that somewhere else, but I was overriding my state over here. So I was assigning my state. Might not be the best place to do it. So I'll take that out. And just know over here, no, I'm not going. Now also note that when you do this code, now if you have a keen eye, you're going to realize here that we're receiving a blob of data instead of receiving, just like for the save callback, instead of receiving metadata. So this blob of data is basically the information that we need. So that's the information that we read from the save state. And that's why it's there. Basically, we just get it back through this callback, and then you can assign it to your state. My state in this case, of course, is the save state, the one I'm going to be using from outside as well. And I deserialize it because, you know, it's a blob and you want to put it as a save state. So this is what it does over here. And then, of course, when I'm done, I go ahead and I call my onload function if there is one. In fact, you know, you don't really need to have an onload over here because technically you're already overriding the state. So having that done, how do we use this? Well, we simply use this by calling save manager instance state. And then we do, you know, whatever you want over here with the field in your game. So if you're changing your player name, you change it directly from here. And then you go ahead and you try to save, of course. So after we went through this whole thing, let me go ahead and quickly, very quickly, go into those functions again, what they do. So if at any time during my game I want to save to cloud, I just call save to cloud function. You don't technically have to put the parameter over here. So you can just say save to cloud. Same thing if you're trying to load from cloud. And then in the login, well, login has to happen no matter what. So before you go ahead and you try to save or load, you're gonna have to be logged in. Else, you're going to know if you put an error callback that it didn't work. Then of course log out, not really useful in our case. And if it did work, if login success worked, so I automatically try and sign in because right away I'm like, okay, so we just logged in. I don't want the player to make progress without being with his own save state. So I'd like him as soon as he log in, hey, okay, we found him, match his save state, get it for him and load it up. And yeah, if it didn't work, fail to log in. That's it. That's all we need. And I'm going to do a quick review again with the phone itself. And we're going to push ourselves a build. Sorry for the low light, it's quite early here in Canada, so The light is not that good. Let's see. We have our game over here. Can we put that in portrait? Yeah, it's still really small, but on the left hand side, you'll be able to see my login button. So I'll click on that real quick. Whoops. It's gonna try and sign in. It says successful. It actually says, let me go through it real quick in the computer. So what we saw over here is the login. So I tried signing in, and then what it says is, okay, it was successful login, attempting to load file. During that time, we also had something else going on. So we also called load right after, which started another loop of callback, another flow of callback from load, which meant, okay, after a little while, we're going to get a callback in after load. What happened is we got loaded save. So that's actually the best I can get right now in terms of size and focus. It says loaded save. That's my second save. So that's save count number 2 from, and then we have the date from today and also the time. What if I try to do in save another one? I'm gonna hit save. It says saving to cloud, and it says, hey, we save our third file on this specific date. So let me go ahead and wipe this application real quick. And I've opened it again. So let me try and log in once more. So I hit the login. Successful. It tried to save. Actually, it tried to load, and it loaded the save file. Now what we're going to do is we're going to hit load again. Still works. We're going to log out, try and load, and we get authentication error. Why? Well, because we're logged out. If we try to log in once more, then we go through the prompt because we're not automatically signed in. If we log out, we don't get automatically signed in, but here we are once more, load the proper save, and that's it. Of course, this might require a little bit of patience to get this rolling, but as always, if you have any question, please leave them in the comment section down below. And you can also just directly download the code on the website. You can join us on Discord if you have more questions. I'd rather if you leave the question in the YouTube description, however, because we can see them and they stay there. In Discord, sometimes we get quite chatty and, you know, the question might disappear. So go ahead and leave them in the comment section down below in YouTube. And of course, you can download the code directly on the website. So having that said, thank you so much for watching. If you support this video, if you support stuff like that, go ahead and subscribe to the channel. That'd be great. You can like the video, you can pledge on Patreon, you can support me in doing more through those ways. And I will be seeing you soon with some more Google Play videos such as achievement, leaderboard, and also multiplayer. Guys, once more, thank you so much for watching. I'll catch you later. Cheers.